Hey everybody, Lars here. Filming from the new digs in the middle of New Brunswick. I'm staying here now. I got out of my old house, but I still got to go back and forth and clean things up and turn off the gas and turn off the water and do a whole bunch of stuff at the old house because I'm not closing on it until the 2nd of July. But knock wood, things are starting to come together a little bit here. Getting some TVs installed on the walls tomorrow. I'm going to go to IKEA and get some futons, blah, 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 blah. This is the first of 3 review videos that we're going to do for Unit 3. Today, it's going to be a pretty quick one because what I used to do in the past was I would do functions and then I would redo the Euler problem that we did in our 2nd class. But what I've decided to do more recently, maybe the last couple of times we've run the course, is I do all of Unit 3. And then for a 4th video, I redo the Euler, because instead of just redoing it with functions, I want to redo it with functions and libraries, and libraries is Unit 3. So I'm going to wait and do that. So really, today we're just going to talk about the first third of the Unit 3 slides. As you know, Unit 3 is a little longer than the others. And then I'm probably going to get out of Dodge pretty fast after we're done, because I intend to do a video every day for the next 3 days, basically every day of the weekend. It's Friday night right now. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That way I'm going to get you all your review videos. I want to get you your resources because I want to get you as much time as possible to work on the assignment for Unit 3. And if I'm not mistaken, Unit 3 encompasses 4th of July, so you might be going to barbecues, you might be going away. I want to make sure you have enough time to do this stuff. So without further ado, let's look at some stuff as far as functions are concerned. I'm just going to create a new one. We're going to start from scratch. There is nothing up my sleeves. There's nothing in my hands. So I'm going to just do what I do and do some comments. I'll just say functions, and I'll say Lars. And then basically the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to say my list, and I'm going to create a list with some integers. Good enough. And then I'm basically going to say print. And I'm going to, hello, and then I'm going to say sum my list to show you a couple of things. One, do you see how idle is making print in sum purple? It's because that's what idle does with functions. You've really been using functions all along. In this case, the word sum sums up an iterable. So if you give it something that is a collection of numbers and it can iterate over it and add them up, it will add them up, and you will see. I'll just call this funcs.py, and when I run it, you'll see I get 30. Okay, 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 6 is 12, plus 8 is 20, plus 10 is 30. Okay, so you've been using functions all along, basically. Let's go here, and I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to say built in functions Python. Look at that, pops up right off the bat. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me the page for the Python documentation. And there's a list of all the functions that you have built into Python ready to go once you start using it. All right, you've been using most of them already. Here's int, here's input, here's print. Okay, here's sum that we just used. All of the casting ones are here, float, string. So you have functions already, and you've been using them. And what is a function at the end of the day? It's like a built-in mini program that you call with arguments or with no arguments, and you get something back. You get a return value. You remember in the beginning of your slides when we looked at the anatomy of a function, we said that, they have names, they have optional argument lists, and they have a return value. They do something. But the big thing about creating functions is you have to have that logic in the middle. So basically, and you're going to be introduced to the Python documentation shortly, so I don't think this is strange. Python, unlike when I was a kid and I had to get an actual big old thick book, you guys have everything online. So it's almost like the instructions or the manual for Python is online. It's Python documentation. We're going to talk more about the standard library and grabbing functions from other libraries in the third part of this unit, but for right now we're just going to concentrate on functions and how to really do them ourselves. So I'm going to doink that, I'm going to doink that, and I'm going to want to save this for you, but I don't want it right now. So instead of using my little green apostrophes, I'm just going to do that. Now, let's say I wanted to create a function of my very own. in the middle of my program. First thing I would do is I would take DEF. You can see idle makes it orange, and it's basically for define or definition. And I'm telling it I want to define a function of my very own. What I usually do in this video is I define a function called multicube. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take two variables, in this case A and B. Then I'm going to do a colon so that I can get a code block. And then in that code block, I'm going to build the body of the function, the thing that actually gets the job done. So multicube, what is it? What I'm going to do first is I'm going to multiply A times B, and then I'm going to take that result and I'm going to cube it. And that's what I'm going to return to the person who calls my function. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable called z. And I'm going to make z equal to the product of A and B. And then I'm going to return, what am I going to return? Z cubed, okay? I'm going to do it right there in the return statement. So it's a really short function, only 2 lines. But basically when I give it something, I'm going to print it. Print multicube 2 and 2. Okay, so what's 2 and 2 going to do? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 cubed is 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is what? 64? So we should get 64 when we run this. And after we run it, we're going to trace it and see what happened. All right, we do. We get 64. Now, what exactly happened there? What happened there is basically the Python interpreter ignored all of these because it's comments, and then it got to the def keyword. It says, okay, this is a definition, so I'm going to throw this guy in memory. Python knows the anatomy of a function, so it's going to say, okay, the name is multicube, and there's 2 variables, A and B, and then you have z is assigned A times B, and then the return is z cubed. So what happens? Print, whatever comes out of this, I'm going to print to the screen, call multicube with 2 and 2. So is there a function in memory called multicube? There is. It's right there. And what am I going to run it with? A equals 2 and B equals 2. Okay? So I'm running the function. So I get to the second line. And it says z is assigned 2 times 2. So z is assigned the value 4. Then down here, return. I'm going to send the value back. Where? Right here where it was called. Okay, I'm going to take z, which is 4, and I'm going to raise it to the 3rd power. So I got 4 times 4 times 4, which is 16 times 4, which is 64. Then that value is returned to the middle here of the print statement, and that's why we print 64 right there. Okay, we could also, and we're going to come to this later, if I wanted to, I could assign the result to a variable and then just print that variable. Now I'll be honest with you, I think I prefer this because then that result is always there for you to use later in the program if you want to use it in another calculation, if you want to use it to print it out again later on or something like that. Usually I put things in a variable. That's going to come into play later on. All right, so you're probably saying to yourself right now, hey, this function stuff is great, but why do I care? Why does it matter? What it matters for is that now all of a sudden that little piece of logic is done and off to the side. So anytime I want to multicube something, I can. Let's say I want to change it and I want to make it a 3. Okay, all of a sudden now it's 216. Let's say I'm going to get crazy with it and I'm going to say for I in range 10 multicube, actually, how about doing things correct syntactically? Multicube 2 of I. Okay, and then, hang on. Oh, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get that in the right place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the C equivalency. So I'm going to go through a loop, and every time I go through, I'm going to do 2, comma, and whatever I is. Okay? And then I'm just going to print it. So now when I run that, you get that. Okay? Now, if I don't have that logic codified, then I got to type it all over again. All right? But now, because I have it in one line, I can put it in a loop. I could do it in 50 different places. Okay? So it's a part and parcel of design and compartmentalization. I've taken that logic and I put it off to the side, and now I can just call it with one function, and I'm off to the races. Okay? So that's basically how you define your own functions. That's just like we said in the slides. You say definition, you give it a name, in this case multicube. You have parameters. In my case, sometimes you don't. Some, like when I printed out those silly lines of Detroit Rock City, I didn't have a parameter there. I just said, hey, I want this job done. Go off and do this little mini program. Okay? A lot of times you do have parameters though. So then I did a little arithmetic and I returned the value, and now I can use it. I can even use it in a loop like we did there. So it's compartmentalization of logic. It's putting it in a spot where I can use it repeatedly so I don't have to retype that code every time. All right? All right, we're going to do a couple more things. One we kind of did already, but, well, actually, you know what? No, I'm going to leave this code here because I want Multicube. I'll take this away. All right. Now, let's say I do W equals Multicube 3, 3, and then I print W. So I don't even know what this is going to be. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 cubed is 9 times 9 is 81. 81 times 9 is, I don't know. Let's find out. 729. Okay? Now, let's say I wanted to know what 3 times 3 was. I wanted the intermediate value. I wanted to print out Z. So what I would do is I would jump down here and print out Z, right? All right. That, ladies and germs, is a pregnant pause because when we run this, it's going to blow up. Watch. Boom, 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 boom. Now, when you read this error, it says name Z is not defined. So I'm trying to print Z, and it says it's not defined. But what's going on here? I had a Z right there, and it was assigned the product. So that should be 9, and when I print Z, I should get 9. This is the issue. It comes down to something in computer programming that we call scope. Okay? The scope of the variable is that it only runs in the function. When I call Multicube here, I go off to another part of memory where Multicube is, okay? You don't have to think of it like this. It's actually what's happening. That's been defined and put in another area of memory. So when I call Multicube, it goes off into another area of memory. And the A is equal to 3, and the B is equal to 3, and then the Z is assigned the value 9 because of the product, and then I return 9 cubed, which in this case is 729. But when that value is returned here and assigned to W, all of this goes away. Think of it like scratch work. It was a piece of memory that used the program, did the calculation, sent off the result, and then it disappears. Poof, like Kaiser Sose, it's gone. Okay? So now when I'm trying to print Z, the program's like, Z what? I don't freaking Z. I don't know what Z is. Z is crazy. There is no Z because it's not defined anymore. The scope of your whole program is something called global, but when you ran that tiny little program off to the side, it's what's called local. And it got the answer, sent it back, and then disappeared and went away. Now, if we wanted to print Z, we could do it in here. We could do it in here all day long, okay? Because that's within the scope. Z exists when you're running your function, but when you come out, it's not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment that out, and we're going to print Z in there. So now when I print Z, now we run and I print the 9, okay? Because I'm doing it within its scope. So when I talk about global space and local space and why you can't access variables inside of a function when you're out in the main program, that's why. Because you have different scope. When you run that function, it's in its own little area of memory. And then when you return that value, it goes away. All right? So that's scope. The other thing we're going to talk about really quick is this. What if I run this? What's going to happen? There's that pregnant pause again. All right, hold on. Boom, it prints do, 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 do. I don't want that. I'm leaving this here. The reason I'm leaving all this junk around is because I'm giving you this code after this particular video, so I want to make sure it's all there for you to tinker around with. The correct thing is that nothing happens, okay? And nothing happens because you've got a fruitful function. It ran. There's no error. Everything is fine, but the problem is you didn't capture that variable. You went and ran the function, and the 9 came back, but it didn't get printed. It didn't get assigned to a variable. It's just kind of out there in space. And then the program ends, okay? So what you've got to do when you have, and I talked about it before, when you have a fruitful function that's going to return something, you have got, uh-oh, it's a little boo-boo, because Python cares about case, so I had to make sure it was lowercase. When you run a function that's fruitful, that's going to have a return value, you have to make sure, oh, excuse me, coffee break. You have to make sure that you capture the value. So you can do that in one of two ways. You can assign it to a variable and print the variable, or you can just do what we did before. And I'll do it real quick. And just stick the whole thing in a print line. If you stick it all print line, if you stick it all in a print function, then you'll print the value. Then the value will come back and it'll become input for the print. So you're good there. But to be honest, what I usually tell people and what I do myself is I want to capture it in a variable. Because variables I can reuse, variables I can print as many times as I desire later. So then when we run that, we get our 729 again. Okay? So there's the two things that I really want you to remember. And I'll get rid of this now because we're going to grand finale this baby. First, I want you to remember scope. That when that function runs, it goes off to the side and runs, and after it returns its value, it's gone. So don't refer to any of the temporary values like z when you do that. And the second thing is a fruitful function. If you're returning a value, capture it so you could use it and you could do stuff with it. All right? All right, then let's hold on a second. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the programming language C, Python is kind of the same way, and that when you define a function, you want to do it right away. So do it at the top of your code. That way it gets put into memory, and then when you start doing things, and you call it all as well. Okay? I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to leave this here just as a reminder. I'm going to leave all the stuff I commented out, but your grand finale is right there. Okay? Where we just defined multicube, we had it in memory, then we summed up this list, which was 30, then we jumped in a loop, and from 0 to 9 we did a multicube, okay, and then we talked a little bit about scope and a little bit about capturing values when you have fruitful functions. All right, good. Announcements, I'm not going to do any because I'm going to do another video for you tomorrow, and then I'm going to do another video for you Sunday. Suffice it to say, you guys are all doing great. Kit is working on the assignments and the quizzes for Unit 2 over the weekend, so I should be sending them out early next week. I have already got some response from people about forming groups, so if you want to get some group stuff going, you got about 6 days left to do that. I already have a group formed. If you want a group of 4, you better hurry up because one's already gone. Okay, so we're worrying about group formation. You've got your midterm. You can work on that anytime you want. Take a little bit of time and work with Code Academy or Learn Python the Hard Way or the Harvard videos. And just keep chugging along. You guys are doing well, all right? Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully, I might do them both tomorrow, but hopefully I'm going to get one. Tomorrow's, like I said, I got to get up early because the Geek Squad from Best Buy is coming here to stick 2 flat screen TVs on my walls, which won't make a damn bit of difference because I don't have cable yet. I can't get a dish. I'm a DirecTV person and I can't get a dish, so I have to go with cable. So I'm going to go with Fios for internet and cable because I looked at that Altus One stuff from Cablevision, and if you look at the reviews at Amazon, these boxes are just breaking apart. Everybody hates it. They're screaming and yelling, so no thank you. I'm just going to get the sports and news package from Fios and then go on my merry way. Plus, I got Netflix and Amazon, and I got more crap that I'm paying for that I probably even know about. So I'm not worried about that. Plus, I don't have time for it anyway. I've got Python class to teach. I don't have time for any of this fun stuff. I'm not allowed to live my life. I'm not allowed to be happy. I have to sacrifice it to the Python gods. All right, for no announcements, that was long enough. I'm getting out of here. You're going to get another review video tomorrow, and then you're going to get the third one. And then during the week, I'll do that Euler video. And this one I'll get to you because I'm going to be in the cave quite a bit this week, getting some stuff done and catching up on a lot of work that didn't get done while I was moving my rear end to New Braunfels. All right? All right, good. Then I'm getting out of here. You be good, and I'll talk to you later.